Cool, thanks. Welcome to the American Cinematheque at the Los Feliz 3. Thank you guys for being here for this screening of The Black Cat, hosted and co-presented by the Greg Proops Film Club podcast, available everywhere you find podcasts. You guys are about to enjoy a taping of the aforementioned podcast in just a second. I just want to say real quickly, thank you to everyone here who is a member. We really couldn't do any of this stuff without you guys, so thank you. And if you didn't know we offer memberships, we do. They save you money on your tickets, get you access to members-only screenings. You can find all the info on that online or come talk to us about it in the lobby. I also just want to say once the film is on, we have a very strict no phone policy in here, so put those away, and I'll keep it at that. Without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage our host, Mr. Greg Proops.
Let's take... Hello. Check. Let's take the lights down, shall we, a little bit, so we can have a mood here. Okay. That's exactly what I wanted. Is it possible to take the lights down a little bit?
Only all the way dark.
Fuck yeah, all the way dark. It's going to be like a Ray Bradbury story.
Sure, can we kill the lights?
Yeah, kill the lights. That's the... Now you're talking. Good evening, boys and ghouls, and welcome to the Greg Proops Film Club Halloween showing of the 1934 classic, The Black Cat. No one will be unseated during this movie, and there is no nurse on duty. So, if your own life should be in danger, like everything else in Los Feliz, you're on your fucking own. Thanks for coming out, you guys, and welcome to the Greg Proops Film Club. Very, very excited to show a picture that we've never shown before here, The Black Cat. Halloween is my favorite of all of our events that we get to do here at the Film Club. Jennifer, my wife, picks all of the pictures, and we've shown some real corkers. Last year on Halloween night, we showed The Innocents with Deborah Kerr, which is a movie about English people being awful to children, which is an entire horror subject all on its own. And over the years, we've had the chance to show many great horror films. We showed I Walk with a Zombie by Jacques Tourneur from the Val Luton unit, which was made for a budget of $14.85. And you'll know every single riff from that movie. That picture was very exciting to me. I'm opening up the globe now to get some liquid. I am as aware as you are that this looks like a sexual device from the pleasure chest with an enormous comet's tail on it. My understanding is it's an electric cat, which everyone needs, and why the theme for tonight's picture. We've also shown Ugetsu, which is a Japanese horror picture by the director Mizoguchi from the classic era of Japanese film. And I'm recommending these films, and why are you talking about them tonight? Because as the Halloween season goes on, there's going to be a lot of awful Halloween movies on tele and available to you. And I'm trying to hip you to some ones that you'll really, really dig. The Innocents, of course, Ugetsu, or Ugetsu Madogohori, as it's known sometimes. Eyes Without a Face by Franju. No, it's not based on the Billy Idol song. The Billy Idol song is based on it. And it is one of the most harrowing horror movies you'll ever see. A mad doctor is having women kidnapped and taking their faces off because his daughter has to wear a mask all the time because she doesn't have a face, and he's forever trying to place a new face on her. And there's no gore in it whatsoever. But there's a scene in the picture where the doctor removes someone's face and puts another one on in absolute silence. And I've never seen a crowd squirm as hard as I have for that movie. That one I think you'll really enjoy. And then, of course, let's see, what else have we shown? Return of the Evil Dead. Now you can tell by the choices that Ugetsu and Eyes Without a Face, which was described by someone who was watching it as the most elegant horror film of all time, are all chosen by Jennifer. And then there's Return of the Living Dead, which is one of 3 movies I've chosen over the last 10 years at the film festival. Dan O'Bannon wrote it, who wrote Alien, and You may have seen Return of the Living Dead. It has nothing to do with the other Living Dead movies other than they've ripped the title off Living Dead. And I would call it a comedy horror movie. It does, however, have Linnea Quigley in it, for those of you who are deep horror fans, and you will know Linnea Quigley as the Queen of the Bees. Edgar Ulmer, who directed this, was known as the King of Poverty Row, meaning all of the movies he made had a budget of $18 and some stamps. And he was able to do absolute wonders with it because, like so many exiles from Europe who came to America in the 20s, he brought a resume that he had completely fabricated and an enormous amount of talent with him. And that's the story of film. Lying and then hopefully art. So, by the way, let's see here. Oh, right. Here's a quote from Edgar Ulmer made one other movie that you'll know of called Detour, which is considered a classic in the film noir genre. And he also made a million other movies, all that have names like, Vampire Weekend or whatever. And his quote was, "I really am looking for absolution for all the things I had to do for money's sake." Yes, I think that's a rather trenchant comment to make when you're in show business and in the movie business. But it's also something that you'll never find any of the executives saying that run any of the studios, because none of them have ever sought absolution. Thank you, that was a joke, but of course, you can remain as quiet as you like. I realize the atmosphere is somewhat Macbethish and macabre here tonight. And a lot of you are thinking what has or is about to happen, because things have taken a terrible turn. All you wanted to do was escape your troubles for but an hour, and now here you are trapped in this horrible room, and the doors are locked. Which leaves you this proposition to find a way out. Now, this movie's only 65 minutes long, so your ass will barely touch the cushion as the evening goes through. And as you know, here at the Greg Proops Film Club, we only have three criterion. One, is it awesome beyond measure? And two, is it under 2 hours? Because we do not show epics here, nor anything with a hobbit in it. If you want horror, you can sit through all 3 4-hour versions of The Hobbit, which turned into a trilogy of a book that's 110 pages long. If you want horror, it's taking something that has no legs whatsoever and has no reason to be over 90 minutes and making it into 3 goddamn 3-hour movies. Like you were Fassbinder on a speed binge in Berlin in the 70s. If only Fassbinder had made The Hobbit, then the hobbits would be wearing tight polyester pants and snorting coke in between every battle with the orcs. Then it would have been a much better movie. And in fact, I think I'm going to make Fassbinder's Hobbit for Christmas. And then we can all enjoy ourselves for once instead of having to suffer through Peter what's-his-name's thing now that he took Ozempic. So, yeah, you fucking heard me. What do I have to lose? I'm 1,000 and I've been in show business 1 billion years. I don't really think they can touch me anymore. I'm not sure what else they can do besides hang me up from a wall, which you'll see in this movie, by the way. There's plenty of that going on. No studio head has sought absolution. And this movie, of course, it's a Universal movie. And as you know, the Universal Studio in the 30s had all of the great monsters, the Mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and then later, of course, in the 50s, the creature from the Black Lagoon, who Elon Musk has based his entire look on. A horrible, gelatinous, flappy upper lip, a weird body that makes no sense whatsoever, and movements that defy human description, while being disgusting and absolutely repulsive at the same time with nothing to say, under the guise of some supernatural intelligence that no one seems to notice that he doesn't possess in any way. His herky-jerky movements and his scarecrow-like jumping around belie a vast, enormous, yawning chasm where a human soul would be if he possessed one, which he does not. For the supposition that I would like to put forward is the amount of money you have versus how smart you think you are is equally in inverse proportion to the amount of humanity you have. So each dollar that your wealth rises, the less humanity you possess. Ergo, we are not talking about monsters in this particular film tonight. We're talking about humans who act as monsters, which is, of course, the essence of Hawa. Because, and I don't want to go all Bruno Bettelheim on you here, but you don't need to have the face of a monster to be a monster, unless, of course, you're in the Republican Party, in which case it's absolutely necessary to look like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz or Orange 45 or one of the others, or Rudolph Giuliani, whose face appears to be melting at all times, like Ray Milland in the movie, where he re-entered the atmosphere. Sometimes I wish I was a Republican. Why, Greg? Why? Well, one, I would have no conscience, and then I would do much better in show business, because I would be willing to steal and stomp and lie and ruin people's lives and feel nothing but glee about it when I go to sleep at night with my Abba Zaba bar tucked under my pillow and the clamps made of clothespins on all of my genitalia. And also, if I was a Republican, I would be a 9. As it is, in Hollywood, I'm barely a 5. In the Midwest, I'm a 7. We're going to Ohio next week, where I am a total strong-ass 8. Because I bathe, have a haircut, and wear a suit. This is a place where people wear their pajamas to the show. And, but I think you'll find in the Republican Party, someone like Matt Gaetz is absolutely an 8, because he has hair and is reasonably tall. Most of them look like Orange 45, who now is reduced to literally a gelatinous mass that soils himself and defecates and is filled with flatulence, on top of the fact that his skin tone is like a hippopotamus risen from the Nile, from the Zambezi, after squashing a native into the bottom of the river. A horrible earthy tone of a burnt orange and a raw sienna and an umber and a hideousness that infests every second of his being. So when we talk about human monsters, this isn't some sort of abstract horror movie, fictional thing that we're talking about. This isn't Byron on a laudanum-induced weekend with Mary Shelley and Pete Shelley from the Buzzcocks. This is, in fact, the reality of the world that we live in. Because you needn't look very far for humans that are monsters and monsters in human form. Because this election is exactly about that. Are we going to elect a human being, or are we going to let the monsters take over one more time? You may remember when the monsters became upset that they couldn't deal with the fact that they lost because human beings didn't want them anymore, that they donned face paint and monster hats and attacked the White House with bear spray, or rather the Capitol with bear spray and zip ties, as monsters would do. And they are going to jail one after the next. They're still going to the jail. Let's face it, January 6th was the Alamo of modern times. A group of white people trying to uphold slavery who were brutally beaten down. The difference was, at the Alamo, there was a happy ending. All the white supremacists were killed. And at January 6th, they're simply being put into jail for different increments of time, including the asshole with the one eye who wears the eye patch, because, believe it or not, he shot his own other eye out. If you don't think that monsters exist, and they do. Having said that, we're here to forget our troubles, but I want to remind you to vote. And if you've never voted before, you're a fucking horrible individual. And you need to you need to seek absolution like Edgar Ulmer right this second. You have till the 21st in this state to register to vote, and you can vote by mail here. How do you do that? It comes to your house in the mail, and you mark the ballot, and you put it in a mailbox. What's a mailbox? So anyway, the other way you can do it is to go to your voting place, which will still be open on the day. I'm urging you to do this. Now, as for your relatives, because I see a lot of white people here, there's going to be no budging them. I have relatives in Arizona, Oklahoma, Mississippi, whatnot, as I'm sure many of you do, because no one is from Los Angeles. And it's impossible to get through the inconceivable wall of misinformation, bullshit, propaganda, and Russian-style toss nonsense that they've been subjected to and are living, in fact, suspended in a jar of misinformation formaldehyde, like a tiny salamander in your biology class. My sister believes Mexicans are bringing fentanyl across the border when it's clear that it's my cousins who are bringing fentanyl across the border, and they are the ones consuming it. They're the ones who live in double-wide trailers with an enormous blue bucket in front of their house and a rope swing that doesn't work anymore because the tire fell off. They're also the ones who keep dead refrigerators and appliances on their lawn and a vehicle that doesn't run anymore, so that little children can be caught in them and taken to their death in some sort of weird, dusty demise. And yet they feel that the danger is people coming into this country from Latin America, and white people will do anything to resist civilization and order. That's a joke. You think I'm lying, but I'm not. Bela Lugosi was a hero. He was a hero of World War I, where he was wounded several times. Boris Karloff, who is also a superb horror movie actor, who made his name as Frankenstein, Bela Lugosi, of course, in the original Dracula. Yes, there were silent versions before that, of course, notably Dreyer's Vampire and Nosferatu, which is also a wonderful picture and a complete ripoff of the novel of Dracula. By the way, Bram Stoker was Jewish. His name was Abraham Stoker. Yeah, people are like, really? Yeah. And he's from Ireland. What? Yeah, they had Jews in Ireland then, ladies and gentlemen, before Ireland decided that anti-Semitism was the solution to their years of oppression. Yeah, you can go as quiet as you like on that one, too. I've been to the museum in Dublin, because I've played Dublin many times, and Dublin is a Viking word that means short, red-haired person. No, Dublin is a Viking word that means black pool, because they felt that Dublin was a big black swamp. And at the museum in Dublin, when we were there one year, they were having a Bram Stoker exhibition. And by the way, there's no Bram Stoker museum in Dublin, okay? They have monuments to every other writer there, and Davy Burns Bar has a plaque up to James Joyce and whatnot, Brendan Behan, all of the great, George Bernard Shaw, Oscar Wilde, all of the great Irish writers, Seamus Heaney, whatnot, but not Abraham Stoker. He was a theater manager. He wrote Dracula. It became a worldwide sensation, and it was printed in every language in the world. So we went into the museum, and there we were. And this is an Irish museum. So it was about as organized as the House of Pies is. In other words, you could grab something and go ass over tea kettle out the door with it if you had a mind to. And so there was a Swedish first edition of Dracula, a Spanish first edition, a German one, a Russian one. I swear to you, all sitting there under what my mother used to have, what was a plastic cover that you put the bread under. Do you remember those? It was a see-through plastic cover that the bread lived under. And that's the only protection these first editions of Dracula had. So my wife was with me, and I said to her, Jennifer, I want you to go down to the entryway, where, by the way, there was no heat. The guy running the museum, who didn't charge us, he saw us come in and he went, never mind, just go in. I swear to you, was wearing fingerless gloves like the Artful Dodger because it was so bloody cold in this museum. I said, go downstairs where the man is posted up and have a petit mal seizure. And I will grab all of the first editions of Dracula and run back to our room at the Westbury Hotel. And then we'll celebrate with smoked salmon sandwiches. It didn't materialize, but I'm going to go back one day and steal them. Vincent Price, when he was a theater student, the king of Hala, Vincent Price took a trip to Dublin and had a meeting with Bram Stoker's widow, which I think is exciting. And here's another story that is in no way true, but is one of the best Hollywood stories of all time. When Bela Lugosi, first of all, Bela Lugosi, as I say, was a hero in World War I, and then was a theater star in Europe, and then was in a hit Broadway show of Dracula in 1927. And because he was such a hit in the show, Todd Browning got him to do the picture a couple of years after, right? And Bela was a drug addict because of the wounds that he'd incurred in World War I. He was wounded a bunch of times. And he was one of the first stars to ever go to rehab, which nobody did in those days. And it was very brave of him. And he also started the Screen Actors Guild with a bunch of actors, I swear to you. He is, in fact, member number 28 of the Screen Actors Guild. And yeah, you may remember the giant strike we had last year so that there could be no television production. That was the reason why we had the strike, and it worked out real nice. So far, I'm sure none of you have had a job since then, and I speak from some experience when I say I'm on Whose Line reruns, which is one they're on tonight. If we rush home after this, I think we can see it. It's not a rerun. It's a fresh new one that we made 2 years ago. Bela Lugosi, when he was working with Ed Wood at the end of his life, and he passed away before they finished the last picture, which was Plan 9 from Outer Space. He had a funeral here in Hollywood, and Ed Wood and his whole retinue attended. And there's an apocryphal story. What does apocryphal mean? It isn't true. And it's the best Hollywood story I've ever heard. And it's Vincent Price and Peter Lorre went to the funeral of Bela Lugosi. And yes, he was buried in his Dracula outfit, but not the one from the 1931 movie, just a Dracula outfit. So Bela Lugosi was buried in his Dracula outfit, and evidently Peter Lorre turned to Vincent Price at the funeral and went, "Maybe we should drive a stake in his heart just to make sure." And evidently Boris Karloff said at the funeral, "You've got to be kidding." Boris Karloff did not fight in World War I, and in fact, disappeared entirely from Europe during World War I and did regional theater in northern Canada. Now, I'm not blaming him. I didn't want to participate in World War I either. And I don't think anyone really wants to participate in a world war. It's not like a fun time. In any case, they ended up doing this picture, and they made, oh my God, I think 8 pictures together, Karloff and Lugosi. And you'll find that Boris Karloff is billed in this movie as simply Karloff. He was British, but his family was part Indian, which accounts for his dark, good looks. No one will ever tell you that of course, because of the British, there were Indian people involved in there as well. Bela Lugosi was Hungarian, but born in Romania. And no, his last name wasn't Lugosi, surprise. What was I? There we are. Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff made 8 pictures together. And this picture, made by Edgar Ulmer, who ended up making nothing but, as they say, Poverty Row movies, was the highest grossing film that Universal Studios had in 1934. So it's also 65 minutes long, which I think you'll find that brevity is absolutely the soul of horror. What have I got here? Sorry. I've turned off all the lights, and now you see that I'm reduced to using this sexual cat device as my lighting to look at the piece of paper that I've written on here. Oh, this is purportedly based on the story The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. And it's as much based on The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe as Sweet Potato Stalin's healthcare plan is based on Obamacare. In other words, loosely and with a brushing glance toward no is how much this is based on The Black Cat. However, Edgar Allan Poe is unmissable. And should you be pining to be frightened during the Halloween season, I would suggest that you read Edgar Allan Poe. All of the Roger Corman movies, God rest his soul. Roger Corman, who just swirled off into the darkness earlier this year, made almost all of the Edgar Allan Poe movies into pictures. And he did it because they were in public domain and he didn't have to pay for the rights for them. And The Mask of the Red Death combines several of the movies, stories into one. It combines Hop Toad with The Mask of the Red Death, but is absolutely worth your time. There's also one called, I think, Trilogy of Terror, Tales of Terror, where there's 3 different ones, including The Strange Case of M. Valdemar. And that one has Basil Rathbone in it as well, another awesome horror movie actor. Why should you read Edgar Allan Poe? Because it's the most macabre thing you'll ever read in your life. My favorite line is from a story called Morella, where he says, "Shall I tell you then, dear reader, how much I wanted her dead?" Now that's good horror. Now I'm all for Stephen King, and I would say that I'm all for H.P. Lovecraft, except that his anti-Semitism is so annoying that I can barely take it. His books are very good fun as well, if you like greasy, flapping monsters that come from an alternate universe and a series of letters delivered to weird New England houses. Now, Poe, on the other hand, the verbiage is extraordinary, and you will be left unable to sleep if you read the story of the Black Cat. And the other one I would recommend to you is The Cask of Amontillado, where a man walls another, and of course, The Pit and the Pendulum. A man walls another man up for his crimes, and then you ask yourself, what were his crimes? Well, they're never really stated, are they? Because that is Hawa. And I leave you with this. I like to think of Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff for the joy and the excitement that they bring and have brought. When I was a little kid, Universal put out a package, and it showed in all the theaters, the second-run theaters, of which there were in those days. Not sexy rep theaters like this one, but like, say after Joker Adieu is propped up for its millionth incel run for dudes who watch pornography constantly and refuse to vote for Hillary because she was a bitch and are pretending to care about Palestine, those guys who like the Joker movies by Todd Phillips. When that ends its run, it would have ended up in a second-run theater. And in San Carlos, where I grew up, the whitest place on earth, home of the Plain Yogurt Festival, take the fruit out, the powerful taste is burning our tongues, where One Direction was found in the hip-hop section. That's how white it was. At the Laurel Theater, Universal put out a package in the early 70s. It was The Mask of Fu Manchu with Boris Karloff and Myrna Loy playing Asian people. That was where the horror began. And Mark of the Vampire, which is the one where Bela Lugosi is pretending to be a vampire at the end. Spoiler alert. Whoa. Kick. And the other one was, I think, Son of Frankenstein, which is quite good, by the way. All of the post-Frankenstein Frankensteins are just as good as Frankenstein, by the way. And James Whale directed a good deal of those. So, in high school, my cousin Donnie and I used to get high and go to the drive-in movies. And we would go to the Burlingame or the Redwood Drive-In. In this case, we were at the Burlingame Drive-In. And I had seen Brian De Palma's Carrie, right? And if you've never seen Carrie, it's Sissy Spacek, who's genius in the movie. William Catt. I want to say John Travolta's in it too, isn't he? Yeah. This is the 70s, you guys. So John Travolta was in a horror movie. And Sissy Spacek is an unhappy girl who everyone makes fun of at school, and Piper Laurie is her psychotic mother. And so she's made queen of the prom, and then someone dumps a bucket of pig blood on her head. So, yeah, this is a horror night. At the end of the movie, there's a grave. And at the very, very end, a friend comes toward the grave, and out of the grave, a hand reaches out and grabs the friend, right? Well, I'd seen the movie once before, but I was with my cousin Donnie, and we were very, very high on a dazzling variety of stimulants, methamphetamine, marijuana, and what we used to call poppers. But I think you kids will know them as butyl nitrate. The whole crowd's gone quiet. Greg, must you tell us your drug history? It's imperative that you know that no one in the 70s went to a drive-in movie without getting high and drinking. That the whole point of drive-in movies was, one, to hide your friend in the trunk of your car to avoid paying the $3 admission. And then you would release them from the trunk of the car, and then they would join you in the front seat so that we could all smoke weed and drink Michelob. Or even Tuborg. Yeah, you fucking heard me. So Donnie and I've made sure that he's really high and that no one said anything. And then we're in the bench seats of my Chevy 2, and we're watching the end of Carrie with the fantastic speakers that drive-in movies had in those days, which were made of metal and were tethered to a pole with a weird black umbilical cord. And drive-in movie sound was like this.
Oh, me neither. Let's go to the thing.
That's the audio that you got at drive-in movie theaters. It was as if the speaker was blown. And at one point, someone in the movie says, "Damn you to hell, Carrie Wyatt," which is awesome. So he was sitting there next to me, and I waited and waited till the very end of the movie when the hand came out of the grave. And I did not tell him, and it was quite dark in the car. And when the hand came out of the grave, I grabbed his leg as hard as humanly fucking possible. and he bounced up and hit the ceiling of the car and let out an unholy fucking shriek. And I don't think I've ever been as happy to this day. I give you the 1934 classic by Edgar Ulmer, The Black Cat.